Before we jump into this episode, we do want to place a trigger warning at the beginning of this two-part series, as the story we are about to hear does touch on topics of stillbirth, miscarriage, and infant loss, so we do recommend skipping this episode if this is a trigger for you. So let's jump straight in.
I remember after I lost Sophia, I think I went back to work after like 2 to 3 weeks, because I was like, I just need to keep going, otherwise I am like, my mindset is not going to be, wasn't right. And Jace went back to work, and we were like, how has this all happened in like a year?
Yeah, and it was such a short time.
It was such a short time frame. But I think the closure for me was, I found it wasn't just an infection.
Mm-hmm.
It was, they found out I had an incompetent cervix. I didn't have to worry about going to a public toilet and getting an infection or the food.
All the things you were paranoid about.
Yeah, all the things I was paranoid about. And I was like, oh, gosh. So I didn't even think about pregnancy for a while. I had to go and do a lot of testing, and I had no idea. I didn't even know what incompetent cervix was.
No, and this is the first time I've heard about it as well.
So it's where your cervix is naturally short. So I think our cervix should be like 5 centimeters, and then it gets longer when you fall pregnant because it has to hold up that baby. But mine is actually like naturally only like 4 centimeters. So my body gets to that halfway period where you start to get heavier. And it just gives way, and that's why my water broke, and I got the infection and everything like that. So I then I remember I went back to the naturopath. I was taking her stuff. I was going to the cemetery every week, and just, I think going back to work was probably the best thing.
Yeah, and what made you feel like going, like when you were going through that and you made the decision to go back to work, how did you go on your first couple of days where you're like, did I make the right decision?
Yeah, and probably my biggest thing was, I was even scared to tell my friends that I was going back to work, because like I just had this thing in my, like I was going back for my mental health, but at the same time I was like, do people just think I'm going back to work just to make money?
Yeah, you think you're just worried about everyone's judgment.
Yeah, and I was like, but you know what? It taught me, just do what is right for me and for my family. And even for Jace's mental health, like he went back to work and he was struggling too. Like he was under a lot of pressure at work, like just running a like, because we started our own business as well. So we were like just normal life, like normal business life. And it was hard. Like, so I was always like, although I had that time off and I was only working a few days being at work, I was like, Jace has to go to work, be driving all day and do his job and come home every day, where I feel like I was like, although I was the person going through it, I felt more sorry for him. And I was like, what's he going through? So I would always say to him, Jace, like, are you okay? Like, and that was, I think, the best thing about our marriage. And even before any of this is, we always check that each other's okay. Like, we always talk to each other through the day, because like, you never know like what other people are going through. Like, it's not always, although I was the person going through it, it's his baby too, and he's my husband. So
yeah, I think like a lot of time people forget about the husband or the partner or the
exactly
male.
Yeah, because everyone always says to you, how are you going? But how's he going? So I always made sure that we did everything together. And because at the end of the day, we're going into having a family together. And I think that truly is what got us through, is family support, having friends around, and having each other. Because it could have gone like the other way, and we could have been torn from each other and separated for all I know.
Exactly, and you do hear of that a lot, and it is
that like, people can't.
Did you ever have that fear or that? Or
No,
were you
'cause-
always...
yeah,
Because
we
it sounds like you had good communication.
we had good communication, and I don't know, I have to say, even like marrying Jace, we've never gone to bed on a fight. So although we do, normal couples do fight, but we never really go to bed on a fight. So we just had that strong connection that we can get through it. And he pushed me through things, and I pushed him through things. And I truly believe the one thing that got Jace through was, I remember his grandfather at Sophia's funeral. He's elderly, and he doesn't like talk much, and he's quite a quiet man. And we both went up to him, and he turned to Jace and he said, just remember, in any situation, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And Jace still to today, like, whenever somebody else is going through something, he'll say to them, just remember there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So I feel like maybe his grandfather's words got him and me through what we were going through. I don't know, but it was actually really sad because after I lost Sophia, I had 2 friends that lost babies as well, which we're really close with, and they're actually buried like quite in the same area as Nora and Sophia at the cemetery.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
and it was probably good that because I know you were always speaking about it and stuff, and they probably felt like they had someone to talk to.
Exactly. And I wanted to be there for them because I never had anyone that had been through it when I went through it. So I was like, I am making sure that I'm there for them. And even now, like every Mother's Day, like after I lost the kids, the first birthdays, Christmas, it's like, what could have it been? And I remember the first Mother's Day that I seen all the people posting like with their kids, and it actually taught me that I don't have to put everything on social media when you do put things on social media, think of what everyone else is feeling when you're putting that post up, because I never wanted to. And I remember I would not resent, but like I'd be like, oh, when like after I lost them, you'd see somebody, like everyone was falling pregnant, having kids, and I was just still in that same position of nothing. I feel like I was at a point in my life where nothing was getting better. So after hearing Jace's grandfather give me those words and having the family support and bears of hope, I was like, I'm ready to start this again and do it. And so I went back, and because I had dealt with so many different hospitals and obstetricians, I was like, my doctor did say to me, he suggests that he finds somebody who is a little bit more experienced in high-risk pregnancies. So I actually went and had consultations with 3 other obstetricians. First one was okay, like I just had to have that vibe, and that was my mindset. I had to feel right about every situation. So I went and seen 2, one at Royal North Shore. I went back to see the one at Nepean, but he only did the stitch where, because I did all my own, I joined like a Facebook page of Incontinence Cervix Australia.
Oh wow, yeah, right.
And there were like all different stitches that you could have. So what happens is, like when you fall pregnant, they can do a stitch to make sure your cervix is shut completely, or there was a stitch where you could have it before you even fall pregnant and it stays in forever. And that certain stitch, it was like the one that you do in pregnancy was like a 70% success rate, and the one that you do before pregnancy was like a 98% success rate. And I was like, I ain't going for anything that can give me not a good outcome. So I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to. So I went to one in Royal North Shore, and he suggested more the one that you do in pregnancy. And I just still wasn't, I was like, he was really good, but I was like,
Why did he recommend that?
I think just that's what he was more confident in doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll just go see one more obstetrician. I had a client who used a high-risk obstetrician that she's a female. She's at Norwest and Westmead. And she always like said good things about it. And she was a high-risk doctor. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get her number and call her. And I called her, and Dr. Indica Alacahoon, her name is, and she was at Norwest and Westmead Private. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Westmead. Not that I didn't have anything to say about Norwest, but I had been through a lot of trauma there. Yeah. So I was like, I just want to start fresh. So I went and had my first consultation with her, and she's like, oh, I actually don't do the stitches, but I highly recommend that with your history, you have the stitch that you do pre-pregnancy. And that was like one tick for me.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know exactly what you're going through. I've had patients who go through this. She's like, I'm a mother of 4. And she goes, I had complications in my pregnancy. I know exactly what you're going through. And I was like, she just ticked all the boxes.
Yeah. And being
she was like motherly figure, a female. She knows what you're going through. She knows everything about the body. And she's like, I want you to have the one that's high success rate. So I was like, she is the one for me. So she put me on to a doctor who did them at Prince of Wales in the city. And I went and had a consultation with her, and she's like, yeah, she did a scan on me. My cervix was still naturally short. She's like, I am going to do this stitch on you. So I had that in the September, and she, everything was going good. I went back for a checkup. Stitch was all good. And she said, wait a month or so, try again. So I went, and we were doing good. I was all good. Mental space was good. Jace's mental health was great, and we were like, we're ready to, we can do this.
How long had it been?
So I lost Sophia in May. I then did all my consultations with the doctors. So I had the stitch in September.
Yeah.
And then I unfortunately had another early miscarriage in the December, but that was only like, I was only like 4 weeks, and it was like a period.
Right.
So it was quite early, and I think I just had the mental space of, I had been through a miscarriage before, and it was, I think, a bit more common that I could have had a miscarriage after the stitch, because my body isn't used to it. It's something foreign in my body. So
what was that procedure like, actually, like the stitch?
So it was just a day. I stayed overnight.
Yeah.
And they just go through. They don't have to cut you or anything. They just go up through. I was like, it was more like just like period cramping the next day.
Yeah, right.
And that was it.
Good.
Yeah. But it's still in me right now. Like I can have it in
really?
there forever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and that was the best thing too, because then I was like, what if I did the other stitch where you have it like after you fall pregnant? I didn't want to have like with this one, at least if I ever fell pregnant accidentally, it's in there ready to go.
Yeah. Pre-pregnancy.
Pre-planned. Yeah. So I was like, no, we'll do that one. We did that one. I had like the cramping and spotting the next day, and then after that I felt fine. It was like,
it's
nothing.
crazy how it was just such a small,
literally, and they say it's like a piece of cotton, and it's literally just wrapped around you. So, and then I was like, but how do you fall pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had all these questions, and she's like, well, the way that the cervix is, it's like a triangle or something, and the sperm goes up through where it's like wrapped around. So I was like, okay, well, that was a good question to ask, because it's like you've got something wrapped around, and then you how do you fall pregnant? So that, but the only downfall of that stitch was because it stays in forever. You can't deliver naturally, so you have to have cesareans. But
which is not
that was
a
the
big
least
deal.
of my worries. I just wanted a healthy baby, so I had the stitch and everything was going good. I had to wait a couple of months just for my body to kind of get back to normal after having the stitch. And I wanted to have that break as well. I had been through so much. I think we did another holiday that Christmas. And it was 2020. And we were like, new year, fresh start. My obstetrician Indica said to me, start trying. You're all healthy. Go for a blood test. Just make sure all your iron and everything is good. And that's good to do before you even try to have a baby. I was always taught just to make sure everything in your body is good. So I did that. Everything was all good. And I remember that month, I think it must have been January. Jace, I don't know why, I then did get the period app to see when I was ovulating. I don't know why. Maybe I was at the point where I did want it to happen. And I remember that week I was ovulating. Jace was working away in Jarvis Bay. And I was like, really? Like, this is the one? But I didn't want to tell him that.
Yeah.
And I think I did end up saying, I'm ovulating this week. And he's like, oh, I'm away, blah, blah, blah. And he got cancelled one day. So he came back and I was like, well, this is the time. So we tried that month and I fell pregnant the next month. And I was like, that was like a one night stand.
Yeah. A one night stand.
Because I fell pregnant that month from that one day.
Yeah, right. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I was like, well, this is meant to be, obviously.
Yeah. Luckily, he got cancelled at work.
Literally. Came back all the way from Jarvis Bay.
Was it because of the rain or something?
Yeah, because of the rain.
It's like a natural, it's like the universe was like,
then the
time
universe
for you to go home, Jace.
Exactly. The universe was talking to us or something. And I went, Indica always told me from the moment I fall pregnant, I have to go and see her. Because I was on all sorts of medication. I had to go on, I knew the plan was, because she set like a whole plan out for me. The plan was to go on bed rest from 19 weeks to prevent anything. So I went on bed rest from 19 weeks. I was on Clexane injections in my belly that I had to inject myself needles every day to prevent miscarriages.
From 19 weeks?
No, that was at the beginning.
Oh, right.
I had to go on like antibiotics. She did like everything she could. She's like, you may not even need this, but why take the risk?
Yeah.
And I was like, she's so good.
Yeah.
Like, she just did everything in her power to prevent it. And I remember towards the end of the pregnancy, my cervix at the 19-week scan did shorten, but only to the stitch. So the stitch was keeping it in place. So I was so glad I got that stitch. I was on bed rest, a little bit strict bed rest. We moved in with my in-laws just because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't lift washing baskets. The rules were I couldn't think of everything that you do in life that you push, pull, lift, and I think maybe something else. You couldn't do any of that. So I was like,
my God.
I can't leave at home. I couldn't do washing. I couldn't cook. So we moved in with my in-laws and it was so... I said to Jace, how does it feel like you're back at home, living at home with my in-laws? But it was so good. They were so good.
Yeah, and they're easy.
My mother-in-law said to me, she's like, just treat it like a holiday.
Oh, she's so cute.
And I did. And people like came to see me and it was like, and I remember because my cervix was short and she put me on patches to prevent me going into labor as well. So I was on a patch every day. I was on like $300 worth of medication.
Wow.
But you do anything to have a baby.
Of course.
So I did all that and I remember I was due in January, the 16th of January, and everything was smooth sailing, was going for a checkup every 2 weeks. My cervix stayed in that position and it was so cool. Even on the ultrasounds you could see the stitch.
Yeah, really?
And like the baby's head was just like bopping at the stitch. I was like, oh God, this kid's gonna be wild. and I was getting bigger and everything was just really good. It was COVID that year.
Yeah.
So people couldn't really come and see me, so that was a bit hard, but I just did what I had to do. And I remember we had a baby shower, and it was at the point of COVID where you could have only 20 people at your household. So I just had a small intimate baby shower, and I remember the morning of my baby shower I had to go to hospital because I then started to get a pregnancy rash, and I was like, can anything more happen? I was like, this can't be true. The morning of my baby shower, I didn't even know if I was going to make my baby shower, and my obstetrician, she was on the phone straight away. It was a Sunday. She's like, it can be just a hormonal thing. Your placenta's working overtime. You just got to keep going with it. So I just kept going with it. I had like this rash all over my legs, all over my belly.
Yeah, right.
I think it was that thing called pup's rash. It's a common thing.
Yeah.
And I remember my cousin came to the baby shower, and she's like, I had that rash, and that's a boy. She's like, I reckon you're going to have a boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, she's like, everyone that I know that's had that rash has had a boy.
Yeah,
and I was
right.
like, okay. I did actually think I was having a boy, but at the same time, I thought I was having a girl. But I was like, whatever gets me a healthy baby.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. And she, so then I had the baby shower. It was a beautiful day. And then that week I was 34 or 35 weeks. So I was getting towards the end, getting ready. She was talking to me about like cesarean dates to book me in. And I went in for a scan. I must have been 35 weeks. And I must have like been like waddling in like a bloody whale. I was so big. I couldn't even see my legs at the time because I was so big. Just on bed rest. You didn't even get up.
Exactly, yeah.
Or I was at 25 kilos I put on.
Yeah. And
I waddled in, and she's like, you can't deal with this anymore, can you? And I was like, no, Indica, I can't. I was so big, so itchy. And she's like, I was like, can I deliver this baby? She's like, I know you can't handle it anymore. She's like, there are some slight complications of you delivering the baby early. And I just thought because she was like, she didn't push me, but she was like, come on, you can do this. She like pushed me to keep going. And I always said she was like my second mum. She like even gave me her mobile number if I was ever going through anything, to call her at any time. And she's like, let's deliver the baby next week. And I remember my mother-in-law came with me. Well, somebody always had to come with me because I couldn't drive or anything. My mother-in-law came with me to that appointment, and I turned to her and I was like, I'm having the baby next week. And then I turned to her again and I was like, you know when I'm having the baby before Jace? Because she was with me. Yeah. And they would always know when I was having the baby because I was living there. And I was like, I'm having the baby next week. And I was like, Indica, book it in. So she booked in for me to have the baby. We still kept it a secret from like our brothers and sisters and stuff until like I think the day before. And it was all good. Jace booked in his time off work, and I was like, I'm finally at the point where everything is going good. Like we went back home and set up all the furniture in the room, and
cute.
I didn't like to set things up like too early, especially what I had been through, because with Noah's pregnancy I had organized, like I already had furniture.
Did you have a baby shower?
No, I had sent the invites out the week before. So the invites were sent out, but I did have all the furniture on order, and we just packed it away in our garage, and so I went home and Jay set up all the furniture, and I was like, it's
finally your time.
Finally our time, and we can finally bring a baby home. So,
what was your mindset like? Did you have like through the second half of the pregnancy, were you paranoid still?
I still was. Yeah. Especially because one of those friends that I had lost a baby. I remember she was like 38 or 39 weeks. So I always thought of her, and I was like, okay.
It was always in the back of your head.
Back of my head. And being that I had been through miscarriage and stillbirth, I got talking to so many people who had lost babies, and especially through Bears of Hope, when I would go to charity things, talking to people. I remember there was a memorial thing, and I remember this lady got up to speak, and she's like, I still to today don't know if she had had any kids, and I remember she got up and she's like, I've been through 10 losses. And that's when it hit me, like, if she's been through 10 losses,
that means it's possible.
That is possible.
Yeah.
That's right. And I was like, I can't go through this.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to just keep going. And I still had bad days. I remember there would be times like, and I never used to like to put it on to Jace, but there would be times where he'd go to work and I would just lay in bed and cry and be like, why can't this just be good for me?
And you want it to be a happy time, and you're
That's right.
stressing.
Exactly.
Especially when you're like, how did you go being at home every single day and like not being able to do much? Did you get in your own head a lot? And if you did, how did you overcome it?
Probably the best thing was it was COVID, so everybody was at home.
Oh, right, yeah. So it wasn't
it wasn't that bad, but there were times where like I missed out on parties. I remember I missed out on my cousin's wedding, and there was, my mum videoed the speeches for me, and I was like, I'm missing out on all this time with my family. But I was like, still had in the back of my mind, it's gonna be okay. Like, it's gonna be, I'm gonna get through it. And there's, like Jace's grandfather said, there's gonna be the light at the end of the tunnel. So that got me through as well. And there'd be days where I'd just cry, and I'd like, because I was living with my in-laws, I'd just go into Jace's old room that we were staying in and just cry in bed. But I didn't want to show it to everyone else because I didn't want everyone else to be scared. And I just, I had to keep going. So, and even like because I was on bed rest and I couldn't go anywhere, I was like, or like when you get to the end of your pregnancy, you start to go shopping and buy clothes, and I did none of that.
Yeah.
People just, my mum went and bought things for me, and I had to buy everything online, but I just did it.
Yeah.
And it, so we booked in, I think it was a Tuesday, and it was the 23rd of December.
Oh, really? Is that that close?
No, sorry, 22nd of December.
Yeah, right.
Sorry. And
time for Santa.
Time for Santa. And I was like, did all my online Christmas shopping living with my in-laws. But I was like, oh my God, it's going to be like the 22nd of December, because I was due the 16th of January.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, I'm having the baby before Christmas now. So 22nd of December, everything was all booked in. We had to go in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And went in, was waiting for hours like you do for a surgery. I think we went 6 a.m. and we got in, and I delivered Isaac, who's now 3 now.
Oh, he's so cute.
He's so cute, so cheeky. And we had a baby boy 3 days before Christmas, and it was just, I stared at him for days.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I didn't sleep until Christmas.
Just staring at him.
That's right. Just
like,
literally
real,
staring. I was like, is he real? Like, he's breathing. He did have to go into special care for a day because he was 36 weeks just for oxygen and blood sugar. But other than that, everything was good.
And you weren't too worried about that? No.
I wasn't too worried about that. And I think because Indica prepared me for that as well.
Yeah.
So we had Isaac, and it's just like, I don't know, when I talk to people who everybody loves their children, but I feel like people who have been through a loss love their children so much more.
Yeah.
I just,
you just have that gratitude.
Yeah.
And that, you know, when you've lost for so long and then you finally have one.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, it's been, what a journey. Like, I look back and I'm like, oh my God.
Like, you kind of forget about it.
I forget about it. And when I look back now, like, I'm so busy. I've had, Isaac, and then when he turned 1, I fell pregnant again. I didn't have to go on bed rest, sorry.
That's all right.
Didn't have to go on bed rest for my next pregnancy because she kind of knew the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to stay at home for that pregnancy and everything was good. I just had the injections and all that. Cervix did shorten to the stitch again, but that held in place.
They didn't have to do anything with the stitching out. It was just the same stitch?
Same stitch.
Yeah. And did you get that checked? Did they have to check it before?
Yeah, so before I planned to conceive, I would have to go in and just make sure that it's still in
there,
place.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Like, I go about my normal life and you know you forget that it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I look at my journey now and I say, what a roller coaster. But it's so weird because I still look at, like, I know so many people who are going through, and like you probably would, going through infertility and miscarriage and stillbirth. And it's so weird because although I fell pregnant really easily and my pregnancies were so hard, I still feel for people that have, like, I'm so blessed that I never had the trouble of falling pregnant.
Yes. Yeah.
So I always feel like those people that are going through that, I feel like they're worse off than me. And it's like, people are like, no, you have been through so much. And I'm like, yeah, no, but I still feel more. You always feel more for somebody that's going through that at the time. Because although, I don't know, it's just weird. You always think somebody else is worse off than what you are.
Yeah.
But
and then with your second, like your most, like the most recent, how did you go through that? And you
so
got to stay home.
I stayed home.
How did they make the
I think because
decision for you to stay home?
The stitch was doing good and it wasn't moving anymore. So she's like, and she had had other patients that went through the same journey.
Yeah.
So she knew as a doctor what it was like. But I do remember at the end of that pregnancy, I went in for a scan and she's like, I was going in regularly. I always go in regularly at the end of the pregnancy because that's when you're the most heavy, and I can't go into natural labor. Otherwise the stitch will break. So I was going in for more regular scans, and she said to me, I want you to come in the next couple of days because my water was a bit of a funny color. So she's like, I want to regularly check you for that. So I was going in, and then I was like, I don't want to take any more risks. Like, I was already 37 to 38 weeks. And I was like, I don't want to take any more risks. So I actually text her because I have her number.
Yeah.
And I said, I was due, she booked me in to have him at 39 weeks. So I booked in, I messaged her and I said, Indica, I was starting to feel a bit stressed because I was like, all right, my water is a bit of a funny color. I don't want to take a risk of something else happening. And I said, Indica, I'm feeling a little bit stressed. I was booked in to see her the following morning. I was like, is there any chance we can push it before the Tuesday? That was Melbourne Cup Day, actually. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a baby on Melbourne Cup Day. But it's not Melbourne Cup Day every year that day. And I went and seen her on the Friday morning. And I don't know what made me think. I was like, I just want to go. I had a feeling that she was going to deliver the baby on that Friday. So I fully packed my bag, put it in the car.
Yeah, right. But you won't plan to?
No, I was planning to have
just like a check-in.
Him on the Tuesday. And I went in to see her on the Friday, and she's like, let's not take any risks. Let's deliver the baby now. Jace was at work in Moorebank. So I called him and I was like, you need to get to the hospital now. She's going to deliver the baby. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, Jace, get here now.
Did you know what you were having?
No. So
yeah.
I had Isaac, and this pregnancy still, I never found out.
Yeah.
Even with Noah and Sophia being in the hospital after my water breaking and everything, every midwife that came in for a scan, I was like, don't tell me.
Yeah, you wanted to.
The surprise was just the best feeling ever. So he's like, okay, I'm coming now. He's like, I parked my truck like in a job site somewhere. He's like, I barely know even where it is. He got there that fast. And so we delivered Jacob, who's now 18 months.
Oh, he's so cute.
He's
18.
so cute.
Oh, that's gone so quick. What the hell?
18 months. And Isaac will be 4 in December. And I just feel like it's gone, like the time now of having them, like that time has gone so fast, but the time when I was going through everything was like the slowest journey. That felt like 10 years. Yeah. Where since having Isaac and Jacob, I feel like it's like yesterday I feel like I had them. Yeah. But I just, I look back now and I'm like, it was the best journey. No matter what I went through, I still went on, and I say, like, because I put up all my posts on that incompetent cervix page, and I remember I wrote a post after I had Isaac, and I said, I kicked incompetent cervix butt.
Good on you.
Because I could have been opposite and turned around and said, my body is the reason that I lost my babies. I could have gone completely opposite, and there were days where I was like, it's my fault.
Yeah,
and I was like,
putting that blame on yourself.
Yeah, putting the blame on myself. But I just had to keep going and keep going for my family and myself, and I did it. I went on, and I truly thank my lucky stars that I found Indica, my doctor, because she did everything in her power to do everything. And she was actually a doctor that's on that, you know, the Big Miracles, is it called?
Yeah.
She was on that.
Oh, really? Yeah, she sounds amazing.
Yeah, she's like my mum.
Yeah, and you create that relationship.
Yeah, the relationship with her, and it's so good because, like, I had her for Isaac's pregnancy, and I went back to, I remember the first phone call I made to the office saying, oh, I'm going to try again, and I went back in to have a plan for Jacob's pregnancy, and it was like in that, what was it, like a year of not seeing me, she didn't even have to look at a paper or anything. She knows everyone. Patient.
Well, and she'd see that many people, like that many people.
Because she's like, I was like, what keeps you going Indica? Like having, like, she would see loss all the time. She's like, my job isn't my job. She's like, my patients are my friends. And she's like, she thrive. She said to me, she goes, I actually thrive off the hard stuff, because she's like, I want to give them the best outcome that they can get.
Wow, she sounds amazing. She sounds like someone we should
literally everybody
today.
needs to go to her.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And finding that support too, and feeling like you're being listened to.
Yeah, that's right. Important. Exactly. So although all the doctors that I had in my journey were great, and I just felt a different connection with her.
And I feel like what you went through is very niche too. Like it's a
that's right.
Very. I didn't even know what it was.
That's right.
So,
yeah, exactly. And that's probably the scary thing. A lot of losses and stillbirths, you don't really, because you don't look at the negatives when you're going through that in life. You don't look at, like, you just fall pregnant. I'm having a baby. We're having a baby, and you just keep going on with your life, and you look at the joy. Nobody wants to look at the negative. Yeah. So I think that's probably what made me want to come on here the most, was spreading that awareness. I'm actually meeting with a girl on Thursday who has just been through a loss that wants to catch up with me. She was actually a client of mine years ago, so I know her mum more than her, but she her mum actually messaged me to say like that she had been through a loss and if I was willing to catch up with her. And you know, I wanted that when I went through my loss. And it's so good because every Mother's Day, I don't know if you've noticed, each Mother's Day I put up a post, not really of like, it's another Mother's Day with my kids. I actually put a post up of like infertility and thanking my doctors and things like that. And through those posts each year, I get so many people who contact me.
Oh, really?
And that has been...
I think just being like finding someone who you can relate to is so important. Did you find that helpful?
Yeah, 100%. And probably one of the biggest things as well is you're not alone when you go through it. And that's what I wanted to have more awareness of. Because when I went through it, I felt like I was the only person that was going through it. So I just want people to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Your journey is never over until you want it to be over. And even like I always said that I wanted 4 kids, and now I'm like, okay, I only want 3 kids now. But technically I have my 4 kids. I have my Noah, I have my Sophia, I have my Isaac, and I have my Jacob. So I think probably the biggest thing is don't give up, because there is so much help out there. And when you're going through it and you feel like you're alone going through it, you don't really want to talk to people. You don't want to socialize. You just get in your own rut of what you're going through. So probably my biggest advice for women going through it is just don't give up. And although at the time it seems like it's the hardest thing ever, just look at it as, I look at it as, maybe there is somebody who's worse off than me. Because you know what? I go back to that mother that I heard had lost the 10 babies. And I was like, she kept going. So made me keep going. So...
And I love what Jace's his grandfather said, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. That's just so sweet too.
That's
like,
right. So I think maybe
but you don't expect situation
in
life, to say that.
I think that's what was like, oh my God.
You just don't expect him
wise words.
Like an old wog man to say
literally.
You just don't
I was
expect
like,
it from them.
okay,
but that's
what's
really
he
sweet.
like?
Yeah.
You never think that. Like, and I think us just being young, like, do we ever take advice from our grandparents?
Yes, yeah.
Because they're set in their ways and it's, what do they have to say now? But that got us through.
Yeah.
So,
and no, it's good. And I think just talking about it is so important. Like, I like to listen to Chloe Fisher's like podcast. And I don't know if you've heard of her, but she talks about her loss all the time. But she went through miscarriages as well, but she also struggled to like fall pregnant. Yeah. And just honestly speaking, like, because you don't like, obviously don't have any kids, and I feel like for me, there's not a lot, like, you don't grow up hearing about it.
Never.
Like, in school, you never hear about it. Like, you literally learn about, like, ovulation, kind of, and your period. But you don't, like, everything you're telling me right now, I've never heard of it before.
Exactly.
Like, no, it's not, I don't feel like it's spoken about enough.
That's right.
And I think, like, the precautions to take before you have a baby, like, there's so many things that you can do now that nobody knows about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
And probably the scariest thing about incontinent cervix is before you have a baby, you never go and have an ultrasound on your body.
No.
So,
and if you do, are they even checking for something like that? Would they even notice?
I don't think so.
Like, I've had I've had to have an ultrasound before. I'm sure that's something they wouldn't even check for.
No way.
Yeah,
no.
They're just looking at your
you don't know, and your cervix can actually be at a normal length, so it looks all normal in the ultrasound. But when you fall pregnant, that's when it shortens.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. So you just don't know.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
So I probably, and you know what, women, they don't really look at statistics either. Like I think it's 1 in 5.
Well, I'm just gonna get that up. So I was like reading into it because I'm finding it really interesting learning about it as well. And just personally, like, just being in the salon, like, my clients and like some of the girls I work with, like, we hear about it so much. Like my client will come in and they tell you that they're pregnant quite early because obviously they're like, you need to know. Yeah. And they're excited and that you obviously, sometimes they feel like you need to know just for like, chemicals and stuff. Not that it does anything these days. Everything's so like holistic in that new approach. But they tell you quite early and then they come in and tell you that they've been through a miscarriage and you just see how it affects them. And it really, really affects them. And I feel like I can't, I feel like I want to talk to them about it, but like you don't know what to say. I've never been through it like that. So
and that's I think that's what people struggled with, especially like our friends. Yeah, it's like they would always say to me, "I don't know what to say to you." Yeah, and even now, when somebody else goes through it, I even say to them, "I don't know what to say to you," because the way I felt in my journey, like so many people said to me, I couldn't have kept going if that was me. And I'm like, I need to advocate that this, like, you have to keep going. And the way that it's really hard what you can say to people because people take things like in different ways, more or less. So like even when people would say things to me like, oh, at least you can fall pregnant, and but they don't mean it.
No, they're trying to find like the positive in the situation.
Exactly.
But, like, it's just not what you want need to hear. Yeah,
want
to hear, and it's not what you need to hear at that time. But people just don't know because they haven't been through it.
That's right.
So coming from someone who has been through it, what did you find helpful? And what advice and what support did you find helpful? Like what words did you find helpful so that someone like myself, if I ever do come across someone who's been through pregnancy loss, what do you recommend is a good thing to help people
say? There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I know, that's the model. That's the motto.
That's right, exactly.
That's the motto of today. Yeah.
That's right. The amount of like support, like charities, like Bears of Hope, they were a huge help. So like there's always support in that way, and people that go through miscarriages, like even at hospitals and stuff, if they go in for curates, they'll automatically get information about that, which is great that the hospital provide that. But what you would say to what I would want to hear from somebody who's been through it, just to say I'm here.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I was just going to say that. I feel like you don't, like when someone tells me, I don't want to talk about it because I haven't been through it, but I think you just need to be positive vibe for them, around them.
That's right.
And maybe actually redirect the conversation to something else if is helpful.
That's right. 100%. But then at the same time,
without invalidating them. Yeah.
Without, not saying anything at all. I think that just, I'm here for you. If you ever want to go for a coffee and talk about it, I'm here. And just checking in as well. I think that was a big thing. People were scared to check in on us. Not many people really came to visit us because they were like, what do you say? Especially,
I think, and you don't want to come across as being like nosy, or you just, I think people get in their own heads. Like you don't want to come across as like, me messaging you, but like she'd be like, oh, she just wants to find out what's going on. Like you just don't want to come across as nosy. Like even my cousin just had a baby, and I'm like dying to go there. But I'm like, Mum's like, oh, you should go. But I'm like, Mum, like I don't want to be like, you just had a baby.
To
like
have
you
their
don't
own time as well.
Exactly. Like I've never been through that, so I don't know what it would be like. In her position, but I don't want everyone she probably wants to just enjoy her time with her baby. I'm like, I don't know what to say, Mum. She's like, just go, she'll be right, she's your cousin. I'm like, I know,
it's so true. It actually
you just don't know where to stand if you've never been in that position.
That's right, exactly.
It's so hard.
Yeah, so people, I feel like, did resent us a little bit because it's like they don't know what to say, but then on the other side, we had so much support.
Yeah.
And we have a big Maltese family, both sides. Mine and Jace's family are Maltese. So we just have that. Everyone was always there for us. Yeah. Like the amount of flowers that always got sent to us. And I remember when I had Isaac, I had a girlfriend who has like a business with like all baby stuff and like these beautiful like toy box things, and she actually sent one to me, and she's like, just remember what you went through, you came out the other side. So there's always, don't give up.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest thing. Just never ever give up, because if you like, not that, I think there is a time where it's like, okay, enough is enough. I don't know. And I don't know what I would have been like if I did have another loss. Like, I don't know. I could start trying to have a baby next week and not fall pregnant. You just don't know what's going to happen. And that's the crazy thing about the female body. You don't know what's going to happen, but just take it with your stride.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but if anything, I probably look at my boys now and I'm like, you guys, like, I still talk about Noah and Sophia to them.
Yes.
Isaac always says to me, Mum, are we going to go to Noah and Fia's house? Because he just thinks that the cemetery is their house. I've got books of like siblings in heaven.
Yeah, I think that's so sweet.
Yeah, so there's so much out there as well, so they don't forget them. But then at the same, like, now I'm at that point in my life where it's like, I don't always bring it up as well, because depending on the situation, like there's so many clients that come and they wouldn't know anything about, but it's until it's brought up in that conversation. But even now, like new clients that come to me and I start telling, like, they always ask about my necklace. That's probably the biggest thing, but I'm not going to stop wearing it because I'm not going to ever forget them.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Yeah,
I love that.
so
that's really sweet.
Yeah, that's just my life.
Keeping your spirit alive.
I think, like, my life was like up here and then it was down there. So, it was, I would never say, I could never say, God, what I've been through is the worst thing ever, because I personally look at other people and think, God, what you've been through is so, like your podcast with Deb.
Yes,
like, I'm like, how did she go through that?
Overcome it. And you hear her story and you hear what's happened and how she's changed it, and you're like, wow. Like,
it makes you look at life differently. And I hope that my podcast, to those people that are going through it, they can look at it differently and go, okay, she kept going, I can keep going too. Exactly.
And just, that's the thing that you said at the start, is you found it helpful when you could relate to somebody. And I think that's important.
That's important.
That's why it's, even if you don't actually speak to someone in person, you could just help one person just by having some sort, being relatable, and they might not have anyone in their life that's been through a loss to talk to.
That's right. Like, and they might, there's people in life who haven't even lost, like, a grandparent.
Yes.
Like, so people don't know what loss is.
Yes. Yeah.
So you just, I truly hope that nobody ever has to go through what I've been through. But at the same time, what I've been through has taught so many other people what you can go through. So that's probably, And remember, like, the 1 in 5, I think there's...
well, that's what I was just about to bring that up, actually. It's so funny you said that, because I was like, when I was, you know, doing all my research, and it's like, literally, like, 1 in 5, I think it was 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 people go through, I think it was 1 in 5.
1 in 5 go through a miscarriage.
Yeah. And it's like, you just think about, like, all the chairs in our salon, and, like, 1 in those 5 people have been through it, and it's so common.
And I feel like if that person hasn't been through it, they know somebody else who's been through it.
Exactly.
So that's where there should be, I think, a bit more. I want women to maybe not be scared to tell people what they've been through.
Yes.
Because I can admit, the very first miscarriage that I had at 7 weeks, where I had the curette, I didn't really tell many people that I'd been through it. But then after having lost Noah and Sophia, I was like, no, I got to start telling people. And I'm not even doing like telling people my story I don't want people to ever feel sorry for me. I just want people to be aware that this is what can happen.
Exactly. And people going through it, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, I've got one last question for you.
Okay.
Where is she? I know it off by heart, but I feel like reading it. Okay, so in our mission to empower women, when do you feel the most confident and empowered version of yourself?
When do I feel? When I'm helping somebody. Like, when somebody contacts me and says, hey, I've just been through a loss. Can you talk to me about what you've been through to give me more of like an understanding? I think, wow, I've done something, even for a legacy of Noah and Sophia, me helping somebody else, that is where I feel the best version of myself.
I love that. I do. Yeah.
And even Jace, like for a man, do you know how many times he comes home from work and he's like, hey, the guy at work, like they've lost a baby or somebody that, and it's like, wow, men do talk about it too.
Yeah, I think that's important as well. I think that's not spoken about enough.
No way. I feel like women talk, because women, we can talk about, especially being a hairdresser, we can talk about anything, right? But I feel like with men, they try and have like this tough
persona.
Yeah. And it's like I think, is that why so much, like, there's so much mental health out there, especially like with suicide and all that with men? Like, is it because people aren't talking?
Yeah.
So I think that's where I feel the best, where I feel like, because I didn't have many people to talk to when I went through it, I feel like having me being that person to talk that person through it, that's, if I can help somebody by doing that, I feel the best that I can be.
I love that.
Yeah. So
I love that. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
I learned so much about you, and I did know your story, but like I didn't know all of it. So I think probably a lot of your friends and stuff that listen to it will.
Yeah, well, I feel like half of my friends don't even really know, because it was such a long journey as well. And I feel like nobody's gonna say, so what was your journey?
No, and nobody. Yeah, exactly.
And it's really actually funny that I got in contact with you about it, because only a few weeks before I was messaging these people about podcasts, but they were more like infertility ones.
Yeah.
So, and they were Americans, so I feel like nobody got in contact with me. And then when we got in contact with each other, I was like, this is meant to be.
It's like, yeah, I know. I was saying it to Sel. I was like, and Annalise, because, you know, Annalise works for me, and I'm like, oh my God, Jamie messaged me. I was like, I honestly didn't, like, even if I thought of you, I would have been like, oh, I don't know if she would want to speak about it, because you don't know what other people are going through. And that's right. So you reaching out to me was just perfect. Yeah. And I'm really glad I got to do this today.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you so much.
Yes.